Alright everybody, we have a 10-bolt Chevy differential on a 2001 GMC Pickup. We've already drained the differential fluid. It smelled really bad and was really black. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean the fill and inspection hole with the wire brush to make sure that when we put it back in, it's not going to get a lot of contamination. And we're going to open it up with a 3/8 extension, which gives us the square drive to open up the bolt. We're going to put in clean differential fluid to flush out whatever little bit of debris may still be in there. And then we will fill it up to spec, which should be just to the hole or down a little bit. What we're doing now is we're just using some other differential fluid, gear oil 7590, that we had laying around to help us flush out the remainder of the debris. Then we'll put in the 3 liters of our Lucas 75W90 gear oil synthetic, so it should give us a good longevity before we have to do this again. And we'll bring you back when we're ready to drain this. Alright, we've put in a little bit to flush it out. We're going to remove the drain plug and inspect the color of the extra fluid we put in on our finger to see that it was black at first. Now it's looking pretty clean. Right, you can see there's still some debris in there. That's why it's always a good thing to flush it out. A little extra to make sure you get all you can. After, we're going to be putting a magnet onto our bolt to help retain all this metallic contamination. So what we're going to do is put a little magnet on there, and what that's going to do is attract all the magnetic particles. We're going to put it up into the differential. This is the drain bolt, and we're going to torque it up to specs. And then we will go and fill it up with the approximate 3 liters. It should be about a ½ inch down from that fill hole. So now we're pouring in the new differential fluid. It should take about 3 of these. If you're doing this on the ground, it's going to be a little hard. They do have a conical nose on the spout, and sometimes it's good to put a piece of hose on there to help direct the fluid into the differential. This one's empty. Okay, so now we're just going to check with our finger, and we're going to stick it in, and we're going to be looking for the fluid to be about a ½ inch below the opening. And we got fluid on our finger, so everything looks good. Now we're just going to put in the filler cap, and we're going to loosely tighten this to, which should be around 20 foot-pounds. All it does is keep out dirt and debris. So now we're going to remove the drain plug on the transmission. So now we're going to go on to the transmission. We're going to drain the fluid out of the drain bolt. A lot of transmissions don't have them, and you have to break the whole seal to drain the fluid slowly. So now what we're going to do is drain the transmission fluid on the transmission. There's an oil drain bolt, but it seems to be seized. So what we're going to do is take the pan down and just drain the fluid out of the gasket.
Move this one all out of the way, then we're good. And then we can drop that one and drink. That's for the video, yes. Right?
So now we're going to pry the front of the oil pan down and drain the transmission fluid out. And it looks like it's a little low because we should already see fluid at this point. You can tell by the color from here it looks old and burnt, so it's a good thing we're changing the filter and the fluid. So now we're going to pry the back of the filter out. There's still quite a bit of transmission fluid in the pan, so be careful to remove it as level as you can and then get the fluid into your waste pail. So now we got the front end down and we're draining a bit of the fluid, and now we're going to work it out level. So we clear the back bracket, should slide forward and down a little bit. Okay, so what we did is we bent the shifting bracket a little bit to let the pan come down and lower out level so you don't lose the fluid. Alright, so the transmission pan has been cleaned and prepped for the gasket. You can see the magnet has been cleaned, and that gets all your metal filings that get broken down over time. And now we're going to install it up onto the vehicle. Alright, so the transmission pan is a little tricky to put up. You have a heat shield here because of the exhaust, and then we have the shifter boot here which hits the other side. So I found the best way is to go up. We'll go on the heat shield side first, and then we'll pop up the other side. Now we'll do up the bolts. We had 3 bolts in there to help keep our gasket lined up. So what we're going to do is just loosely put in each bolt so that the gasket still has lots of room to float around. Alright, now we got all the bolts started by hand, and we'll go around bringing them up loosely at first, then we'll go around and tighten them up. Okay, now we're going to plug back in the wiring harness to the distribution block module. Make sure they seat nicely. So now we got the filter and the pan on, and we're going to put 3 liters in to start. We'll start checking our fluid after 3 liters, and then we'll have to bring it up to temperature to check the final fluid level. We're using AFT Klondike fully synthetic automatic transmission fluid. GMC states that it's supposed to be changed to 85,000 kilometers. We think this is probably the first time this truck's had a service. Now we're going to drain the oil as the last part of our service. So we got a 15 mil wrench. We're going to take it off. And what we'll do is we'll drop the filter. We'll run a little bit through it to help flush out the junk, and then button her up and fill her up to the 5.7 quarts. Or I mean liters. Alright, now we're down to the last little bit of the old fluid coming out. So what we'll do now is we'll flush half a liter or so through there to help grab the last little bit of debris off the bottom. So I always like to fill up my oil filter a little bit to make sure we're not starting dry. Okay, rub a little oil on the seal, and we'll put that in there. So now we've got our full fuel, or our oil filter. We're going to put it on. Make sure the mating surfaces are nice and clean. And what you do is you go on finger tight, and then you go about a quarter turn after that. You don't need a lot of torque on this. It's a nice rubber compression gasket. Alright, now we're going to pour a half a liter to a liter through here to help flush out the bottom debris. Now, all that ensures is that you get a little bit more off the bottom. The filter still stops everything, but it's always good to try and push out as much as you can. Alright, so since it's new fluid, we're going to cut it off there, put in the bolt. We'll torque that up with a 15 mil wrench, and then we'll go up and put in the 5.7 liters of oil.